just getting off work and feeling like sharing some thoughts. So I just started this new job. I'm actually on my way to pick up the Queen Mother. Um, Happy birthday to my cousin Donna Stevens. Um, I've been seeing all the birthday love that all of our family has been showing her. Um, my father was a my father and Miss Donna and cousin Donna were very close, especially right up till the day he passed. He was really close with her and with our other cousin, Barbara, my cousin Kimmy and Sherry and Lori's mom. So Donna, my memories of Donna, I always, especially every family reunion, I always called her and Barbara, um, Kimmy and them's mom, our unofficial greeters. Because if you came and showed up at a family reunion and you looked like you didn't know where to sit, they would be the first ones to grab you and tell you where to go. If you came and you didn't have a plate, they bring you over to their family and make you a plate. I remember going to one family reunion that my dad finally decided to come to because for many years they had a difficult time because of a lot of other stuff, family mess, that to get him to come. And so I showed up. He was there before I was, him and Bridget, and he was sitting right at Donna's table with a big old plate in front of him, um, talking and everything. Well, my Aunt Gerlina was not going to go that year. And so she decided to show up because I was going to join Dad. And so her and Barbara, to me, whenever I think of them, I think of the introduction to the family. They were constantly, they were the people who would make any stranger feel welcome, and bring them in. If you didn't have no food already with you, they would share their food with you. If you came and you had picnic stuff with you, they show you what tables. They were just like the official conductors of the whole entire thing. So I would like to extend any birthday wishes that I've already made to Donna, which I already have. So, girl, have a good rest of the week. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the grandkids. Enjoy the great grandkids because I'm sure they're great grands by now. So happy birthday from me and my children and my first grandbaby. So my dad, John T, is now officially a great grandpa. And Giovanni is named after him. Giovanni means John in Italian. So anyway, to get on to Adam's Rib TV, a media ministry business. So I saw a couple of things on the internet. Um, for many of you who don't know, I just recently, and I've talked about it before, left a local denomination, and I am still being harassed by that denomination. Some men just don't seem to get, and like I said before, when I hear women defending certain men, and when I hear women defending behavior that they don't understand, okay, that still constitutes sexual harassment. Okay, and when you are pestering a woman on behalf of a man, you are participating in the process. There is a recent movie out here lately, and it's called Promising Young Woman. Now, the phrase promising young woman is a play on words. It is a play on whenever a young man who is in a college date rapes or sexually assaults some woman in the college. They go forward to define him as a promising young man. Oh, this man with so much promise. In other words, it's a way of playing on your guilt, to make you not want to press charges and not want to come after him for. And I always think when I hear cases like that, when you hear that the person, that they did what they did to is also a student. 9 times out of 10, she's also a student. The the subject in Promising Young Woman was a woman who later on, after the sexual trauma and what she was put through with her college, committed suicide. And so her friend, and I think this is based on a story out of the news, started going forward and picking guys up in bars and pretending to be drunk, and then scaring the bejesus out of them by letting them realize, number one, I'm sober, and the behavior that you are practicing against me is, well on your way to sexually assaulting me. So I always wonder when people talk about what, the rapist and Divine the rapist, the guy who's guilty of rape, of being a promising young man. I'm like, what do you think that these women have ahead of them besides being raped? Like, what do you think that they have? Because I always wonder, like, especially one of the signs of a toxic church, number one, is protecting men who sexually assault and stalk and do harmful things to women. And so, and one of the things, and I always notice that whenever a church or a group of people are always defining women as man traps. In other words, well, they're trying to get pregnant so they can get this. They're trying to use their looks to get that. They're trying to trap a brother or a brother of another color. They're trying to get us in. They're trying to get you in. They're trying to get a baby on purpose, as though men don't pester women for sex on a routine basis. And so when I see stuff like that, I'm like, I think about all of the women who were studying to be doctors, studying to be lawyers, trying to do no to prostitution, you know, um, studying to be lawyers, studying to be doctors, and wind up running into some of these monsters, okay, and wind up having to drop out of school because then their friends start harassing you, okay. And so it really upsets me because, as far as I'm concerned, the world does not need another man that's going to protect it. The world needs a man that's going to stand up and treat men who abuse and sexually assault and do the things that they do as though the one victim that they have is an isolated incident. It's not an isolated incident. You should never be shocked when a powerful man is accused of something and there's a whole bunch of women coming forward. I'm never shocked. I'm never shocked because most guys who behave inappropriately tend to behave inappropriately with more than one woman. So, well, now everybody jumping on the bandwagon. They're not jumping on the bandwagon. What they're doing is exposing a pattern of behavior for that particular man. So, I want to talk about a pattern of behavior for abusive churches. I always think it's interesting when people start off a relationship with you and you're constantly being accused of a bunch of stuff that you don't even do. And then by the time it's all over with, they wind up being guilty of everything that they have accused you of doing. And so my relationship with this church, like I told somebody, they remind me of an ex-boyfriend that I had who used to constantly accuse me of running around on him. I could not do nothing. If I went out the house, he swore up and down I was about to do something. He was always trying to keep me all locked down, always accusing me of things, and then I would catch him cheating. Okay, and the more stuff that keeps coming out with this particular denomination, I'm like, why don't you stop? Okay, because the more you keep the more you keep accusing me, the more stuff keeps coming out on you, and the more stupid you are looking every time you mess with me. Like God is deaf, like God is deaf in one ear and can't hear out the other, or blind in one eye and nearsighted out the other eye. Like he cannot see everything that you are doing. And like he doesn't know the difference between the Holy Spirit and witchcraft. Okay? So a lot of the postings that I keep seeing around, I'm like, and as I said in a prior post, I always, like I said, can we just admit that men will pretty much say anything to get a woman to sleep with them, including lie on God. I have done a lot of research on cults here recently, cults and just abusive churches, because there are differences between the two, but there are a lot of similarities. And so I am starting to see how prevalent it is for so-called men of God to lie to women on God in order to get some pussy. Now, when I hear stuff like that, that tells me that really men need to just kind of get their act together, okay? Because after a while, it's not cute. And it's really not cute when you do it at all, okay? But then to be wrong and continue to keep pressing people. Now, I'm going to say this, and I keep posting this on my page, and I'm going to continue to say it. Ladies, you do not have to earn what somebody should not be doing to you. You don't need to earn what someone shouldn't do. You don't earn it by being the right shade in comparison to a paper bag. You don't earn it by having the right hair texture, which is why I'm keeping mine natural. You don't earn it by being the right dress size. You don't earn it by being on the right side of the proverbial railroad tracks. You don't earn it by having a pristine sexual past. Okay? No means no, even if your daddy was Iceberg Slim and your mama was one of his hoes. No means no. No means no whether he's the church janitor or whether he is a bishop in your diocese. Okay? Not wanting to sleep with someone is not wanting to sleep with someone. Yes, I am abstinent until marriage. I don't need to keep explaining to people why I don't want to sleep with someone I'm not married to. If you were really all that saved, no one would have to keep explaining why they don't want to be a prostitute, why they don't want to sleep around, why they don't want to let anybody use them for sex on their way to someone else. When you don't owe anybody, you really don't owe anybody an explanation to that. You would not have to be practicing abstinence and you would still be okay saying no. You are okay saying no even if you thought about the person sexually before they approached you. No means no. No means no if they're white and you're black. No means no if you're white and there's some other color. Okay, I have friends all colors. So I hear the BS on both sides. Okay, the guy, you just don't want to sleep with me because I'm some other color than the rainbow other than white. And I have that right. You don't want to sleep with me because I'm white and you're black. Well, I still have that right. Okay, as a woman, you have the right to say no to one ethnicity sexually and yes to another. You have the right to say no to one person in ethnicity and say yes to another man in the same ethnicity. Okay, if you don't like them back, they don't qualify. Okay, I've been hearing this really out of the apostolic church about certain women being disqualified. So I'm going to say it loud enough for the devil to hear. There is no such thing as a woman being disqualified for marriage. No such thing. Okay? Men been making up excuses to try to pressure women sexually ever since men and women have been on this earth. Okay? You don't You do not have to be the right shade in comparison to a paper bag to be able to earn. You never have to earn saying no to sex. No one has a right to full court press you, no matter how many things they check off some imaginary checklist that makes you a so-called hoe. Really, nothing makes you a hoe. If you are not selling pussy, if you are not having sex with, if you are not selling pussy, you are not a hoe. God is not allowing men to categorize women so that they can have an excuse to press them for sex. God is not telling any pastor to send people to stalk you on Facebook or stalk you in real life or press you or continue to harass you for sex. A real man of God will not be practicing sexual harassment because a real man of God keeps his penis in his pants. A real man of God, and yeah, I'm talking about spiritual leaders right now, okay, and the men in the pew, because now they're calling it, they just handing the man of God to um, handing the man of God title over to just anybody anymore, okay. A real man of God imitates Christ, okay. Nothing can nothing can disqualify you, like I said before in several other teachings about sexual um, about lies God, Satan tells women. Your sexual past cannot disqualify you from marriage. And any man who tells you that is lying and he's of the devil and the truth is not in him at all. Any man, single motherhood doesn't make you a hoe. Okay? Single motherhood, unwed motherhood, no matter what it is, once you belong to Christ, you are, she's not, but once you belong to Christ, you are forgiven. And no one denomination is more forgiven than another denomination. So, Apostolic Church, quit lying. I already don't like y'all. And one of the reasons I don't like y'all is because the way you take advantage of women and children. I don't like y'all because you have all these pastors that run around fucking over women and you don't do nothing about it. Many of these leaders that are up in your church now should have been sat down a long time ago. Now, you keep wanting to make the issue about women in leadership and women in the pastorate. How about men who are in the pastorate that should have been disciplined a long time ago, should have been sat down a long time ago, and probably should have stayed out of the pulpit? And Christianity is not the only religion I got a problem with when it comes to their attitude toward women. Globally, y'all mugs need to be sat down. But since I only belong to born again Christianity, okay, how about these pastors that you keep helping cheat on their wife? If I see one more post that is meant to test women, asking us, well, should you tell if you got a cheater in your family, or if you know that a man is cheating on his wife, should you say anything? As I said, so I'm gonna tell you what I said to this one young woman because she talked about seeing evidence in her dad's phone that he was cheating, and I said, number one, if you don't tell, then you run the risk of being seen by the woman he's cheating on. I don't know if it's her mother or not, because nowadays with people, having kids out of wedlock and being divorced and widowed. Um, I said, if you tell, you run the risk of the cheater being angry with you, which I really don't care about. If I don't like your behavior, then I don't give a damn if you get mad. When you decided to cheat on whoever I'm close to, that you did it, you didn't give a damn about their feelings. So guess what? Don't give a damn about yours. Now, my attitude of not giving a damn what man gets mad at me has got me on the wrong side of quite a few men, because quite a few men think I should care what they think, what they should think. Quite a few men think I should care about how they feel about me not defending them when they ain't all about shit. Well, this is putting you on notice. I don't give a damn how you feel about me confronting your ain't shit behavior. I didn't care before I got saved, and you can ask anybody in my family, they will tell you. Now that I'm really saved and got the boldness of Christ, I really don't care what you think. Okay? Now that's one thing. So my advice was, either way, there are going to be consequences. If you don't tell, then you run the risk of the person who's being cheated on feeling like you were in cahoots with the cheater. Like you knew all of this and you let me walk around here looking stupid anyway. And I'm going to say this, if women cheated with the prevalence that men cheat, would this even be a question? Because I promise you that no man is running around saying, well, mind your own business, stay out of it, if a woman is cheating on her husband. So I said, on the other side, you run the risk of your father getting angry that you told on him. So you have to think about each of those. Whatever you do, there's going to be fallout. Okay, so now this continues to be, and I say why, because the Apostolic Church has an undercurrent of adultery. Okay, many of their pastors cheat. Many of their pastors have side pieces, and they do it right up there in the church. Okay, now I always I always am a little concerned whenever I see a man always getting defensive when you talk about a particular type of behavior. Like, if you're not doing it, why are you defending it? Okay? So that's one so called test that keeps being put out here. Another one is putting stuff out there to make you defend. Let me say this, on my page, I don't let no men's rights people show up in my page or talk any mess to me. Number one, men have a disproportionate amount of power in comparison to other groups, and especially white males. We're just going to put that out there. So, the fact that men already have the power to oppress women, children, minorities, and different other people, no, I'm not real concerned with men's rights right now. Okay? If a man is really truly being robbed of the right to see his children and different other stuff. Oh, I know what I was going to say. I was looking at an episode, a most recent episode of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. So there have been a couple of storylines where they talk about men's rights. So right now, the one guy, Safari, is kind of going through it with his pregnant wife. When she was pregnant when the show was being filmed, and I don't know if she has since had their baby or not. I always think it's interesting when a guy is being threatened with a divorce, rather than do what it takes, which I personally don't believe she should seek a divorce right now, and not because of any religious goofiness, but simply because when you're in the middle of having difficulties in your pregnancy, and have a lot of stress and a lot of emotional stuff, and I'm not playing down her feelings about how he has been in the marriage. He has been very neglectful, but I'm like, I don't think that you should do it right then and there. You may be justified in seeking a divorce after the baby is born. But I'm of the mind, concentrate on having a healthy baby first. I can remember falling out with my oldest child's father, and he was doing and saying a whole lot of stuff, mean spirited stuff. And my Aunt Gerlina finally said, my Aunt Gerlina, most of y'all know her sister, said to me, concentrate on having a healthy baby first. You know, stay on away from him, distance yourself away from whatever foolishness he's doing, and focus on having a healthy baby. And, take care of your baby. And then once you got all that settled, if you need to do any legal stuff like seek child support and different stuff like that, do it then. Don't get into don't get into no legal hassles with nobody while you are pregnant. First of all, if you're in your third trimester, those of us that have been there know how messy your hormones can be. And that's not to play down your legitimate concerns, but lots of times your emotions can be all over the place. Plus, if you are having a high risk pregnancy, because I can't remember exactly how old she is, but if you are having difficulty in your pregnancy, that's going to make you even more. That already tears your emotions up when you are going through something in your relationship with the child's father, and now you're having difficulties in that same pregnancy. That can really you know that can really put you through a head trip. And so I personally don't think she can, but the trouble that I seen coming wasn't even all of that. The trouble, he went and saw a lawyer to be advised, I guess, of his rights that he's not even exercising in the first place. I see the response some of y'all give me, so we here, okay, to advise him of the rights that he isn't even exercising in the first place because he's not even there for her or the kid right now, which is why she's seeking a divorce. The lawyer was a black woman, and the woman said, "We specialize in men's rights." So I'll tell you why I have such a problem with the men's rights organizations. I think it's complete bullshit, and I will tell you why. You have to recognize that feminism, civil rights, human rights are responses to abuses of power that have been around forever. Okay? So when I hear men talk about, well, what about our rights? You mean the right to do absolutely BS stuff to women that you have been doing all along that you should not have been doing? Okay? So I have a problem with the whole men's rights agenda. Now, are there rights that men should sue for? Or lawyer up when it comes to? Yeah, I'm not gonna sit over here and say that 100% men should not. You know, if you are going through a divorce and you're worried about, and you are genuinely worried about being able to have a relationship with your children, yes, you should lawyer up. Okay. Now, that's provided that you were actually doing what you should be doing in the first place. Okay. Many times, men's rights becomes an excuse to beat women over the head for leaving an abusive relationship, coming away from a situation where the man wasn't doing what he should have been doing in the first place. Okay? I have a problem when men try to protect rights that wouldn't really shouldn't even be rights. And it amazes me the number of so called protecting men's rights groups that have showed up, such as incels, which I think is complete bullshit. Women have a right not to date you if they don't want to fuck with you. Or what they call MGTOW, men who go their own way. So there's been a whole lot of BS, men's rights groups that have cropped up that are protecting rights that men shouldn't. You don't have a right to stalk women. You don't have a right to keep pressing them to sleep with you. You don't have a right to force women to be in a relationship that they don't want. I recently had to get the number of the State Department in my phone just in case because of how bad the Apostolic Church's behavior has been in recent years. Know this, that forcing marriages are human rights abuse, and they pretty much are illegal. I'm believing for them to become a felony because of the simple fact that most forced marriages result in crimes being committed against women and children. It is a human rights abuse. It is wrong. Um, I'm looking, at the after effects of our troops leaving Afghanistan, which my son was in Afghanistan when he was in the service, and the fact that, I stand with the women in Afghanistan because those women are going through. This is why I'm saying, as born again Christians, we need to have it together enough that we intercede and pray for some of these nations that are going through, and especially the whole issue of women's rights. Okay, it's becoming a real mess. Like I said, men's rights, you know, it's complete BS. You're bad over some stuff, over institutions that you put in place. Okay, now it ain't working out like you wanted it to work because your right to oppress women is somehow being messed with. So no, I'm like, and so when I heard the whole men's rights bill um, showing up, I'm like, here we go. And so when I look at different shows like, Love and Hip Hop, different other ones, I'm seeing where the influence has showed up. So you have to pray for some of these women that are being attacked by some of these men's rights groups. I had somebody show up in my stream on YouTube with me Too is the devil. I'm like, oh Lord, here we go. Okay, is Me Too the devil? No, Me Too is not the devil. How come something is never the devil when it's people who are being accused in Me Too are doing whatever it is they're doing? How come the how come nobody ever says to these men, don't pinch women's behinds? Because now I'm seeing all kinds of information about Matt Lauer from the Today Show and some of the stuff that he's accused of. And I'm like, how come nobody ever says to men when they do wrong things in the workplace, don't do that. Don't pull don't pull your dingling out in front of women. Don't pinch their butts. Don't massage their shoulders. Don't do any of these wrong things to women. And I have to say this about women's rights groups and feminist groups. Um, I did a paper one time in my social work class over at Ohio Dominican, and I talked about how I felt like feminism of all kinds, regardless of what color, I think should be more evangelistic. We're fighting for women's rights, and I talked about the woman who did Deep Throat or whatever, because I think she has since passed away, and how there are women in porn and strippers and women in sex work. Why, how feminist organizations and women's rights organizations need to be more outreach oriented toward women who are involved in sex work and wish to leave, because it is very hard for women, because men suck. Okay, if you did a blowjob for an NBA player back in '73 and you're now 50, 60 years old, motherfuckers will hold it over your head for the rest of your natural life and don't want to see you do nothing different with your life. God forbid you should have done anything sexually for anybody back in your past. Some mugs will hold it over your head. Some people will hold it over your head for the rest of your natural life, and you don't get to do nothing different because you made that one mistake, or maybe it wasn't a mistake. Maybe you enjoyed it. Who knows? But my God, you have a right to change your life for the better anytime you get good and ready. And some born again Christians are such hypocrites. You forget that, if we went looking in your closet, what would we find? If we went looking in your closet, who did you give a blowjob to that you regret doing? Who did you fuck? that you shouldn't have fucked back in your past. Like I have, like you have these women. Well, you don't have a right to flirt with them first, and blah 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 blah. I'm like, okay, so we gonna sit over here and get real for real, okay? Because while you sit over here defending men's rights to keep forcing women to do shit with them, so you have never been in a situation where you almost did something sexually that with somebody and changed your mind and decided you didn't want to do it because I don't know, you're saved, you feel like your mama might hear about it or your significant other might hear about it, or you just feel like it was something that would mess with your life. Okay, the person has a significant other and you don't want to get down like that and you don't want that drama in your life. Mm-hmm. See, I need the for real people to talk to me. Okay, so you have never in your life came close to fucking somebody that you knew you shouldn't fuck, and you had a come to Jesus moment and decided this ain't it. You ain't never had nobody pressing you to do something you didn't want to do, and they pressed you so hard till you almost thought about doing it just to get the motherfucker out your face, and decided, you know what, I ain't doing this. And I ain't gonna lie, even since you've been saved, look at the amount of these damn pastors in your churches that can't control their dick. You have never been tempted to turn a trick. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you. Before I ran into the apostolic church, turning a trick is not nothing that I'm thinking about doing. Now, these motherfuckers pressed me so hard till I had to get in front of Christ. Now, if somebody is almost considering doing something they don't want to do, you are in their face too much. Okay. And I'm not just gonna get with the women, the men. You have never been in a woman, you have never been alone with somebody of the opposite sex and been tempted to cheat on your wife or your girlfriend or your fiance or your significant other or whatever the hell you want to call whatever you're doing. Because they don't call it Facebook complicated for nothing. Okay? You have never, because people kill me who ain't never been tempted or always want to look at somebody else and be judgmental. If we were to go digging around in some of these people's past, because it's always the people with the worst past that want to be all up in everybody's face talking about whatever. They posted something from what's her name, Erica Campbell. Now, Mary Mary was one of my favorite gospel groups back when I was heavily listening to gospel music. I still, like them, but she said something like, "Well, you can't be no hoe and then think you're gonna be a wife or think you're gonna be a spouse." I don't know what that was. I'm like, do you read your Bible? If you would read your Bible, the Word of God says in 1 John 1:9, if we confess our sins, He is what? Faithful to forgive us and cleanse us of all unrighteousness. So I think it's awfully funny, these people who can't forget about nobody else's past, but if we go digging around in your past, what would we find? How many people's husbands have you almost slept with? How many people's husbands have you slept with? How did you get the husband that you have now? Since everybody want to sit over here, like I commented on comedian Shang's post one time. I said nobody likes hoes, but nobody ever wants a hoe to stop being a hoe. Nobody likes hoes, but nobody likes for hoes to stop being hoes. And maybe we should clarify. I mean women, female hoes. Male hoes never want female hoes to stop being hoes. Nobody likes them, but nobody wants them to stop being a hoe. I was talking yesterday, and I said, somebody talked about strippers and all that, and I was like, I ain't never had a problem with strippers. When I did hair, in the 20 years that I did hair when I lived in here in Columbus, nobody ever tipped me. Most of my best tippers were people who got tips themselves. So I said, strippers were some of my best tippers. I have never got less than a $10 tip from a stripper. So I would like to thank your husbands for keeping these women so well paid that they were able to tip me well for any service that I gave them. Okay? I think it's very hypocritical to coerce women sexually and then dog them for being too sexual. Anyway, I'm getting close to one of the stops I need to make. So Friday morning I will be posting on my way to work live. I also plan to give a review of last night's verses with Fat Joe and Ja Rule. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I always do. The ones the old school ones, and they kind of semi old school because I go all the way back to the Sugar Hill Gang. But it was fun. It was really fun to watch. So I will talk. I will be talking to you all. So I will be talking to you all later on, and I will